In this video, I will share my approach for dealing with tight hip flexors and quads that doesn't involve stretching. I'm Lenore and I help people reduce pain and stiffness through increasing their body awareness because you can't change what you're not aware of. This improves your functionality so that you're able to continue to do the activities you love. Today we will cover how muscles get tight, and I will share my top 3 movements to release tight hip flexors and quads. Stay tuned to the end where I have a bonus movement to show you how to release both at the same time. Tight muscles indicate that the muscle's either being used in an imbalanced way or it's being overused or underused. Lots of sitting contributes to shortened hip flexors and quads. And one of your quads is a hip flexor. So I'm gonna jump in here with a little bit of neuroscience. So the brain controls all the muscles of your body. It's command central. So if we have a tight muscle, that means it's out of the control of your brain. So in order to address the tight muscle, we need to involve the brain. And so how do we do that? Well, we pay attention, we move slowly, and we move in a pain-free range. So let's explore that.
All right, begin by lying on your back with your knees bent and bring your hands into your hip crease. So begin by lifting your left foot off the floor and feel the contraction of the hip flexor in your left hip crease, and then slowly release that. Okay, so now we're going to do that again, but with a little more awareness. So make sure your knee's not overly working, and you're going to lift foot off the floor, or think about bringing your thigh towards your chest. Feel that hip flexor work. The foot is all flopping out. The other thing to notice as you hold here, are you gripping with the belly? Are you arching your back? Is your pelvis tilting? Is there anything else working that shouldn't be working? And then slowly release that. All right, let's add something to that. So slowly bring your left thigh towards your chest, soft foot, and then start to extend the leg up. That's your quad working. Feel it working to whatever degree feels good, and then slowly release that. So it's working, but releasing slowly until it's all the way done, and then release the hip flexor. So we'll try that again. I've moved my mat, so I have a slippery surface here to slide my foot. So come back to lifting the foot off the floor, heavy foot, hip flexor working, no gripping. Extend the leg, feel the quads working. Slowly release the quads with control, right? We're trying to change, retrain the brain. Once that's done, then release the hip flexor and slide the foot down slowly. So hip flexor's working little by little, until it's completely heavy and relaxed. Then slide the foot towards you using your hip flexor, nothing else, and then the foot comes off the floor, and then slowly release.
All right, for this next one, we'll need a block and a strap. If you don't have them, you can use a belt or a book. Come onto your back and take your strap. You're going to strap your thighs. So bring the strap around the mid-thigh, about hip width apart. From here, bring your hands into your hip crease again. So we're not going to be using our hip flexors here. In fact, we're definitely not going to be using them. So gently press your thighs out into the strap and check in with your fingers whether you're using your hip flexors. They should not be working, and then release that.
So this is a small movement. Press the legs out. That's the outer hip muscles working. Hip flexors, it's not their job. They shouldn't work. And then slowly release. So if you find your hip flexors are firing, then make the activation a little bit less. Don't put so much effort into it. Make the movement smaller until you can get those quieted. Okay, and then the other thing you can do with that is take your block, bring it between your thighs, mid-thigh, and same thing, hands in hip crease. Hug the block, gently hug the block, and then slowly release, and check to make sure your hip flexors are not firing. If they're not, that's great, but if they are, you need to make the activation, this is the inner thighs, a little bit smaller. So if the hip flexors are working when they're not supposed to be, that too can make them tight. So we want to train them to only work when they're needed. All right, good. All right, so let's activate the hip flexors in a different way. You can do this in a low lunge or high lunge, but come into your lunge position and rest your hands on your front knee. Let the hips come forward. You'll feel a stretch in the front of your back thigh and hip crease. So from here, so here we're just hanging off of gravity, we're going to resist gravity by dragging your back knee forward towards your front foot. Your hips will lift a little bit. You'll feel your hip flexor working here, and hold that. Take your arms into your high lunge. Inhale and exhale, holding that the whole time. And release the arms, and then relax that contraction, and you'll feel the hips sink deeper. You can also do it in a high lunge. And in this instance, instead of the knee, it'd be the back foot. You'd be scissoring the legs together, feeling the left, in this case, or the back leg hip flexor firing. Breathing through that. So you want to maintain the contraction of your hip flexor while it's in this lengthened position. That will signal to the brain to relax the muscle even more. And then you can come out of that. After you've done the one side, pause and notice the different sensation in how that one hip feels versus the other. And then do the other side. All right, we're moving on to quads now. So line your belly, you can rest on your forearm if you like. So we're going to be grabbing our back foot with the hand. If that doesn't reach, you can use a strap. So press the foot into the hand, and the hand is there to stop that from happening, obviously. And then slowly release that press of the foot into the hand. The hand's now going to resist that and start to win. After you've done that, you can start to re-engage, press the foot into the hand. You might need to come down a bit and then slowly release that. So you're always thinking about pressing the foot into the hand until it stops, and then another time re-engage. Feel your quad working here, and then slowly ease off on that until you're done. Notice how my heel is coming closer to my butt. That's the idea. All right. After you've done that, though, take a moment to notice the different sensation between that quadricep and the other. And then you can do the other side. All right, a different variation of that is in a sitting position. So if you need to use you can either just sit on your heels, or you can take a block and bring it to sit upon. So you want to just come to a point where you feel, toes can be tucked or not, where you feel a stretch of the quads. So for me, I feel one a little bit lower. So from here, what you're going to be doing, this kind of looks funny, but you're going to start to press your feet into the floor and lift your hips up. This is your quads working,
This is their job until you're up on your knees. Now the release happens here. You're going to slowly lower down. So your quads need to work, but they're slowly resisting that. And this is where you're actually going to teach them to lengthen until you're sitting down on the block. All right, so try it again. Come on up. Woo! And then slowly release down. So it's not easy, but we're eccentrically contracting the quads, which helps to lengthen them. If that's a lot of strain on your knee, you can kind of lean forward as you rise to make it less of a load to lift. How's that for alliteration? And then same thing as you come down, you can kind of lean forward a bit to take a little bit of the effort out of it if it's too much. And then release. You can actually come down into a low squat. If this is too much, you can certainly take a block and sit on the block at whatever height you need. And from here, you're going to, this is a little bit of effort, where you're going to press your feet down into the floor to lift your hips a little bit. This will really work your quads, and you're just going to hold here for a count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then slowly release that and sit back on the block. So that is called a facilitated stretch. The quads in this position are already stretched, but when we activate them, that sends a signal to the brain to relax that muscle. It might not feel relaxed right now, but it is when you release and sit down, it will actually be a little bit longer. Okay, we've come to the bonus movement here. So bring your left foot forward. It can be a little bit wide and come onto your hands. Your right hand's going to go wide as well. If you need to use a block under your hand, that's fine. So in this sort of low lunge modification, same thing, you drag your back knee forward. You're scissoring the legs together and feeling your right hip flexor fire. From there, turn and bend your back leg. Reach for the foot. You can use a strap here, and then press the foot into the hand like we did before, and the hand resists. See if you can keep your right hip flexor engaged as well as we do this. A little more challenging movement, but you want to be able to breathe easily through this and keep the engagement of that which we're trying to release. All right, and then come on out. Notice how that feels before you do the other side. If you found this video helpful, I'd appreciate if you dropped a like below or subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. Until next time.